Okay, there aren't going to be any sound demos in this video or anything like that. I'm just going to open up this package here and take this camera here along with me. All right, and so this is really exciting for me because this package from Taiwan, from Mr. Peter, he's wonderful, wonderful human being, for bringing me this. I'm really excited mainly because, well, working with the virtual modular environment in the PC called VCV Rack for a while, I've been using one thing as a great staple through all of everything that I've been trying to do, involving multiple voices in a modular situation, and that's been this one module that was a quad quantizer. Now, before that, I knew about the quad quantizer, there being one in real life by ADAC, which was seemed quite expensive to me in terms of what I was wanting to be able to spend or anything like that. But anyway, luckily I don't have to worry about what I'm spending on anything. But the deal is that there's what it seems to me, I never knew about it before anyway. It's new to me. This new module by this company, Tenderfoot. And it's a quad quantizer. But what it has is it has two knobs, and it has one knob for the scale and one for the transposition of the root note. And so one of the things that means is that I can always see clearly and go to clearly very quickly a particular scale with a particular root note without any guesswork. And the one that I've been using in VCV even, I have to have some sort of knowledge of scales myself, to know, what scale it's in. And I may or may not know the name of whatever scale that have made it do. And in this case, I will know exactly what, because it's on a knob in values. Anyway, this is a quad quantizer, so it has 4 outs, and it even has not just for CV, but also it has triggers out as well. So that's a bonus. Yeah. So let's take a look at it. Let's open this up. I'm just completely off the cuff today. Not going to be any sound demos. Yeah. Just some talk about what's going on and what I'm doing with it and why. Obviously, I'm not going to do a review because, yeah, anyway. I'll do one of those later when I know how it works or how well it works and stuff. But where is my little thingy? Here we go. Box cutter. Okay. I like the packaging. I like the minimal packaging. Although I go with Nerlies, I'm starting to run out of my pack of 50 that I started out with, and I need another set. Once you go to start using Nerlies, you don't ever want to use like a traditional screw ever again. But the thing is, all these people, same thing with Synthertech, who just I just got this multiplier divider from the MDiv. They included screws too. Most do, and I greatly appreciate that because people's hassle going down to the hardware store is just the worst thing ever. Trying to explain what you need and try to make sure you get the right screw or that they have it. And the stickers are cool too. All right, nice wrapping. Comes with the cable that'll go to the bus board. And in fact, this is a much more beautiful, much more sophisticated looking and feeling module in person than I ever thought from the website, from the very simple website and the pictures. I mean, it's the same, but it actually it's really nice now that I'm holding it. Okay, where's that autofocus that's supposed to happen here? Can you focus on this? Can you focus on this? Come on now. All right. So, good enough, anyway. My cat is wreaking havoc over there by the RC505. We'll see what happens. Anyway, a little explanation of this is just that we've got our ins and our outs, which is both the CV and trig, CV in, trig in, CV out, trig out on each of those rows. And the outs are in gold, right? And then it has that little keyboard there. So these two knobs down here are, the first one has got letters on it, starting with C and moving over. And so that's going to be the, oh man, I wish it would, oh, there we go. Oh, it was trying to focus. Yeah, so you can transpose with that knob, and then with the right knob, it does the types of scales. And then both of those are CV controlled, as you can see. And then we've got these buttons down here. See if it will focus right if it takes up the whole screen. Anyway, okay. So these two buttons down here, one has a plus and minus on it. Plus and minus. Is that I don't know what that is, and I don't remember what the knob here is supposed to do. Oh, it's okay, yeah, the other thing about this is that you can input your own scales, and you use these buttons to do it, And so that's one thing that this button I think does, is go up and down or selects or deselects one of these LED lights over the keys to turn it off and on, and then in conjunction with this button. And one thing, I think there's a little bit of a scratch there. I wonder where that happened there. But I wonder if I already did that. No, I'm sure I haven't. But anyway, so it says switch, save, and clear. So switching the between your user scale that you've put in and what's on the knobs is a single press. I remember that much. And then a 2-second press would be the save your selected your created scale or your user scale in, and then hold it for 3 seconds or longer, and it clears the scale that you'd put in. So yeah, not only can you use the knobs to change the scale, what that means is in performance, you can just press this button to go back and forth between your user scale that you define yourself and a second one, which will be defined with the knobs. What is this knob again? I think what this knob might be is like a global attenuator. I mean, attenuator for the range of notes that come out of it. So I mean, I would attenuate that separately with separate attenuators, but the fact that you could do it on board with this, that might be a thing. And oh, it's a clickable. It clicks. See a little foot back there? That's cool. Clicks between something. Oh, okay. Clicks between presets. So maybe I could have a whole bunch of presets. Well, I'll have to read up on it anyway. But let's go on with this boring video here and make it a little bit more boring, and we'll just add it into this case here, and yeah, that's what I'll do. Maybe I'll add some background music in editing. I'll actually edit this and just add a background track during this part while we put on our module. But we'll have fun doing it. I'll have fun doing it anyway. But the thing is, where this is going to be is it's going to be part of the 3-tier rack. And you can see that my 3-tier rack is only 2 tiers right now. What it's going to actually entail is a lot of modules that are in here are going to go into the 3-tier, plus this. So basically, it's going to be another rings and clouds, the clock divider that's already on there, and only 1 or 2 other tiny modules. So, like LFOs. But also the Turing machine is going to be in here. But basically what that means is the only thing left in this is going to be the 3 Platzes. When I'm done with the main thing that's going on, which is the 3-tier rack, which is the rings machine. 2 rings, 2 clouds, and a DFAM. 1 rings being sequenced by a Turing machine, the other rings being sequenced by the key step. Simple as that. monostation is not involved anymore at that point, except for project by project. It can always be involved, but not in the machine. The rings machine is the rings machine, and that's the rings machine. The other machine is going to be the Platts machine, and the Platts machine is a little bit more involved, but still pretty simple. There will be eventually two modules, one to sequence the three Plattses to be three percussion sounds being sequenced as percussion sounds, and another module that would be sequencing two voices semi-generatively, as if there were two more Turing machines. Heck, I could go with three Turing machines with what I'm trying to do, but there's something that does two voices, two separate sequences for each voice that will act a little bit differently, and that'll cover more ground for me. And that would be the qubit bloom and the qubit pulsar for the drum part is what I'm looking at. Apart from that, a mixer is necessary for this because your rack mixer I have now is not capable of bringing in all the voices that I have currently. Eventually, the mixer will be part of the deal. But Rings machine gets built first, then Platts machine after that. And we're talking long term, as long as it takes. I'm in it for the lifelong, so we're not saying that I have money myself to do any of this. Most of this, I probably keep saying all the time, is gifts or based on work that I've done, is like kickback from work that I've done or a result of it. So anyway, apart from my regular job or regular pay or anything like that. So most of this ended up some way or another involved, came out through bartering instead of actual money. But see, that's the thing, is so I'm kind of set when it comes to the Rings machine. I've got it all down. I've got it all working, except not in the 3-tier. I'm using this area for half the parts of my Rings machine right now, for basically a row. That it's going to be the Tenderfoot Quad Quantizer. So the other thing about this quantizer and the value of it, see, now I'm just talking and I'm not even putting it in. Might as well put it in at the same time. I do have a microphone stand, but it's hard to point it through everything that you're doing and just have it be somehow out of the way. Anyway, yeah, so I'm going to put that there for now. And so down the road, as I get that third Moog rack case to shove everything into, and the other power module that'd be necessary to power those very, very few modules. I know it seems a waste, but yeah, it's just that's the reason why not many people will actually go this 60 HP 3-tier route for Eurorack so much, because it's not practical in terms of powering so much, except that you always know that your modules will be well powered. no matter what power module you use. So I'm going to take this off, this decoration, from niceracks.com, where I get my boxes. Not anymore, really. I don't know if I'll get any more boxes. I'd like them to make some other custom things for me, like maybe a shelf that's like a custom size to rise these up instead of what I've got right now, makeshift, that I made myself and covered to look like nice wood. Ugh, I'm just spinning the washer. So, another thing that I'm still really thinking, like I thought from the beginning, I really feel the same way after all these synthesizers that have come out in the last 2-3 years. All the things people could possibly get excited about. To fill up a rack with. The thing is, my first synthesizer, the System 1, I think the only other thing besides the finishing of the 2 Eurorack machines that I would do to add to my studio or add to all this to have to get another box would be to get another System 1M. Definitely over what its contenders might be, a Neutron or a Pro 1 or a Minilog XD module, and somehow try to make it work in a rack yourself, DIY. You could do it. What do we need here? Oh, we need a rack and rail. We need ears and rails. This is real boring, kind of like the olden days. Remember the olden days? I still don't try so hard ever. Knurley's hand screws. Hand screws. Seriously though, somehow we got a scratch on this faceplate, and this faceplate is not a cheap faceplate like the rest of my Eurorack faceplates are. I mean, actually, like most of what I've got is like has got this thing like Synthetech and my After Later audio ones, the rings and the clouds and rings and clouds and plats and plats and plats. All those have this material that, you know, compared to anodized metal. Anodized, is that right? Anyway, compared to metal, a metal sheet, it actually will, leave a fingerprint easier. And it's something that you probably is really sensitive, so you probably can't, like you can't, if you scratch it, you're not going to be able to smooth it out at all afterwards. And it's probably really easy to scratch, is what I've heard. But that goes along with the territory when you're going with modules that, well, we'll just leave it at it's a decision that they all make for different reasons as manufacturers. And there's always reasons as a consumer to want one or the other. But see, this is metal, and it ended up being scratched, you see. So, before I got it. I don't know. Because the thing is, I don't know how customs is and stuff like that. So, I don't know who I would blame that on or anything like that. But it's not a big deal to me because, one, it's got character. Two, it's not the kind of thing that anybody could see, even in a video really close up. Okay. So, like I said, this is like metal. It's like aluminum or steel or something like that. Kind of like the DFAM, same sort of deal. Same as the DFAM, yeah, definitely. And the Aeon, they're making the same choices there. It looks like the Erica Synths 8 Multi that I have is the same. My Tip Top Zeus power module I have covered in vinyl. It's actually silver. It's just plain silver metal, unpainted, usually. But so I covered it and made it black. Woohoo! Anyway, so yeah, that looks nice. It doesn't disrupt my style too much. I just, it looks nice if it doesn't disrupt my style too much. And looks like it doesn't disrupt it too much. It'll be actually over here in the rack. It'll be in the middle. It's going to be mixer, clouds, ring, LFO rings, quantizer, Allen Turing machine, and the mult divider that's over here right now. Mult/divider by Synthetech. So rings machine. It's got the DFAM and the 2 rings. I'm all set with that already, except that I'll want to be eventually using different LFOs than I have right now. I don't have my ideal LFOs, so I'm using the monostation for a couple LFOs. One from the mod sequencer and one from the LFO itself. Because the mod sequencer can now go out the initial CV, the main CV, as opposed to the first oscillator, if you wish. So, the three plats. I mentioned about Qubit making the pulsar for triggers and the bloom for CV, both of which I am in love with. I don't care how long it takes. I will try to get my hands on those two things as a way to do the plats as a even better than grids for drums solution in the case of pulsar, and in the case of bloom, it's going to be a little bit more variation for me than having more of what I already have, which would be more Turing machines. Bloom is a bit different. Just like in my rings machine, it would be too samey to be using two Turing machines, although I really thought about it. One Turing machine and one arpeggiator is a better combination because they can be more distinct to the ear, pattern-wise, than just two Turing machines running at the same time. Now, see, over here, I would probably... the mixing situation is still a little bit up in the air, but it's down to a few things. And one of the major important thing is that I have an aux send and return on the mixer. There's a few options if you want an aux send. The one that a lot of people know about is the Bufuco Hex Mix system. There's the Hex Mix Mixer, and then there's the expander to go above the mixer, and then the VCA on the side if you want more control over the 6 inputs. And it's 6 input, but it's got, with the expander, 3 aux sends. So that would be an option for you if you want to go that route. If you have maybe a lot of voices, or potentially might have in the future a lot of voices in your rack, and you want to be flexible that way, and you don't want to get a delay and a reverb for every single voice that you have in your Eurorack separately. That would be a lot of modules, and in order to save space, one thing that people will do is use an aux send, or use a mixer that can have an aux send, or use a matrix mixer in a way that gives you aux sends and returns, and things like that. There's all sorts of other creative ways in modular to make sends and returns as well, but they tend to be more complicated, in my opinion, than the having it on the mixer thing, which you luckily can have in your rack in a few situations. And like I said, the Bufuco Hex Mix is that one. It's got your 3 aux sends. But if you want that on the same module as the mixer itself, there's a few options. I believe it's Blue Lanterns that does it, and it's called Anyway, they have a mixer that has a lot of knobs all in the same, all close together, all in one module, and I think it's got 2 aux sends. I'll have to look that one up. I can't mention it. So, but the other two main ones is the Pittsburgh Modular System Interface is what it's called, and it's a mixer with 6 inputs and a bus input and a aux send and return. So, and it's got a lot of control for all of those things. And then there's a little bit more flexibility on 3 of the channels than there are on the others, like panning, for instance. So 3 channels are different than the other 3, kind of seems like. Anyway, so there's that. And it's beautiful. That's a great option. And then the other one, though, is I mentioned the qubit modules, right, that I love already. So if I'm going with a little bit of qubit, I have no choice but to consider what might be the best mixing option, which is the qubit mixology. And that has 1 aux send, right? And so I worked all this together, rearranged modules on modular grid a lot for a long time, hummed and hawed on this and that. And I realized about effects, I always thought I kind of wanted a dedicated delay module and a reverb module. And so I would want at least 2 aux sends, right? Like I do in VCV Rack, because that's what I do in VCV Rack, because if you have all the modules in the world, that's what I ended up doing. I started out having also another aux send for boost, overdrive, distortion. But I realized, same thing I've always known, just making sure again, realizing again that I don't use that. So I didn't even bother with it after a while and just go with the delay and reverb. Call me bread and butter, but I've always been cool with that in DAWs. The delay and reverb that they got on their little virtual mixers there is enough for me. Anyway, so it's how you use it, mostly. I know there's a lot of differences nowadays, but anyway, so the deal is with the mixology, it only has 1 aux send in return. But that's what I realized about all of this stuff in the end, is that I could go even further to minimize my modules in the effects realm by going not just not having a delay and reverb for every voice, not just, having them on aux sends, but in fact having 1 module that will do all of it for the 1 aux send. And I know that takes your control down a little bit per voice, but I don't mind with these 3 Platzes, I think, in most cases. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to plan on getting a Zoya Euro Bureau, and that's going to be kind of like the center piece to this Platz machine. It's going to be the aux send for delay and reverb and tremolo and whatnot, compression, anything, combination of anything. Build my own effects. So that can be global, but a different amount per. A global in function, but a different amount per channel of that function. Okay, but the other thing is that would be 1 in to the Zoya Euro Bureau, 1 audio in. The other audio in, that would be the right channel in some cases, that would be my microphone in, and possibly have a preamp module. Erica Synths makes a good one, a good input module that has a good preamp on it, and there's others too. But preamp would be great, going in one way or another, going into the Zoya, into 1 channel of the Zoya, and have a program going on for it that could be a sampler. And that technically could be going on at the same time as I'm using the other channel to have an effects chain and to be that effects send. Have that effects chain within the Zoya be my effects send for all my 3 Platts channels and the microphone coming in through the Zoya. But I wouldn't have to use the 4th channel of the mixology. I could just have the microphone going straight in, and it would also tag the effects in any way I wished, making it any way I wished on the Zoya, because that's what the Zoya can do in that instance anyway. It's not hard to work out mentally whether or not it could do that based on knowing what it can do. So this other thing about this Tenderfoot Quad so that's the whole idea of the Platts machine. It's 3 Plattses and sampler voice. But there's also another free voice, though, which is always good to have coming in, so you can always do something else. You can always bring in something else. Like I could say, maybe bring in the DFAM to this machine instead of that one. A mono voice, anyway. So, so speaking of the DFAM, that's what I've always needed ever since the DFAM. So anyone who has a DFAM knows that it's what it is greatly enhanced by number 1, a quantizer. And so that means that all these pitch knobs can, instead of being whatever, they'll be notes in whatever scale your quantizer wants it to be, by putting it through the quantizer and back in, or out to something else, and sequence anything with the DFAM and have these notes, these pitch knobs, go to notes instead of just frequency values. So one channel can always be used for the DFAM, and that can help the DFAM have its own voice being in conjunction with the other voices, or the DFAM sequencer can be used by quantizing these notes, this sequencer, and having that be the sequencer for one of the voices instead of, say, the Turing machine or the key step and its arpeggiator and sequencer. Okay. Have we had enough of a hang in a chat? I hope everyone's doing well. I know everyone's not doing well right now in the world, and but mostly it's going to come down to self-responsibility. The other thing it comes down to is there's a lot of poverty, inequality, lack of education, lack of communication, a lot of just basic things that have always been things that are going to be a hindrance in these times. And so we can rise above it, especially by staying safe, not for any government or anybody else who's telling you to, but for yourself. Knowing the risks. Being smart doesn't mean panicking, but it's good to be smart. All right. And do what you can online. Knuckle down. Do what you can in your household. Knuckle down. All right. And stay creative. Stay awesome, everybody. Have a good night. Peace in the world.